So it is now 7:30. We can start the show. All right. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. And tonight we are going to be talking about independent study tips. If you are studying independently for medical billing and coding, or even if you're going through a program, these tips are for you. I'm also going to be addressing some medical coding rumors. I did get an email today that I'm going to share with everybody. And yeah, that's it. If you have any questions during this live, please be sure to put them in the chat box and I will get to them as I can. So let us begin. All right. Jocelyn says, are you going to be doing any Christmas in July series this year? I really enjoyed hearing you talk about the specialties last year. Oh, so you've been with me for a while. Yes, I am. I am planning on doing that. I think the specialty tips would be good again. I don't know if I can change it up or if I should change it up. If you have any ideas or requests, anybody let me know. Because this channel is all about you guys and giving you the information that you are looking for, the information that you want to know about. So I'm here and that's all I have. But yes, look for that. So got to get prepared for that one. Hi, Maria. I'm doing great. How are you? So Heather, I don't know if you can like take it over and over and over again. If you're doing like the online version, I guess you can call AAPC and ask them. The thing about AAPC is that they have a really great customer service hotline. They're very on top of their requests that they get. I noticed very quickly. So, but yeah, I would call AAPC just to be sure about that. All right. So the letter that I want to read, I'm going to read the letter first and then I'm going to incorporate the tips as we go. But I did get a letter. And the thing about this letter is, a lot of the things that I say, of course, I'm repeating a lot, right, on my channel. We always talk about that. I tell you guys, all you need is one credential to start with. I'm very firm about that. I always tell people you don't have to be certified to be a medical biller. Those are the things that are staples on my channel. And I always tell you guys the difference is there is a huge difference between the CCS and the CPC. They are both from different organizations. One is with AAPC, the other one is with AHIMA. So I've been very straightforward about this stuff. And sometimes I get questions in, and I don't know if it's that people are thinking that maybe if they phrase the question a different way, that maybe I will respond differently. So I'm going to read this letter and then I'm going to talk about why this is important to talk about. Okay, so they said, good morning, Blue. It's me again. The frustration continues. I am being told by some that it would be in my best interest to have both the CPC and the CCS. In your opinion, would this be beneficial? I know we've talked about this in the past. As of right now, I'm preparing for the CPC, but I have always liked to have a clear picture of what I'm doing and prepare mentally and financially. I feel like there is no point in having both credentials since they are somewhat the same. I watch you on YouTube and you discuss this a lot, that it only takes one credential. However, I'm seeing this new trend and just curious if you know why this could be a thing and why this would possibly be beneficial to a coder, as this could get expensive fast. Thank you. And she says, P.S. this would be a great YouTube topic. So I have discussed this before on other episodes where I'm saying that you only need one credential. And the reason why you only need one credential to start with. But let's talk about this real quick. There is a huge difference between the CCS and the CPC. The CPC only covers outpatient. That is what that credential is testing the people on, is outpatient setting, right? With the CCS is the gold standard of medical coding credentials because this says you have mastered the outpatient setting and the inpatient setting, that you can code both the CPT manual, code from the CPT manual, and the ICD-10 PCS manual which is the inpatient procedures book, right? So you know about E&Ms, you know about outpatient CPT codes, and you also know about the inpatient codes as well. So that is a very advanced credential. This credential, I always say all the time, the CCS is the gold standard of medical coding credentials. I will always say this, not just because I'm a member of AHIMA, but because when you look at the job postings, a lot of times when like hospitals are hiring, they're always looking for CCSs. That is one of the top credentials that they're always asking for, because this person is supposed to be well-rounded in that they can go anywhere. It doesn't matter. They can put them in the outpatient setting. They could put them in the inpatient setting. They should be prepared for everything because they've been tested on everything. So there is a huge difference there. Now, if people are telling you that, oh, you should get, it's in your best interest to get both credentials. First of all, I don't know who is saying this, but as somebody who does not have a dog in the fight, I don't care if you are certified with AHIMA. I do not care if you are certified with AAPC. I look at the caliber of the coder, because the caliber of every coder is different. And just because you hold a credential or a particular credential does not mean that you are an advanced coder, right? So because of this, when I hear people being encouraged to rack up multiple credentials, this gets expensive. And as she said, it could get expensive fast. But she's feeling this frustration, and she's talking about, she's getting, she's asking, she's wondering what my thoughts are. And she even said, I know what your thoughts are. You've said this before, that it only takes one. I'm a firm believer in that it only takes one. I currently only have one. So because of this, I am always going to hold to that. All you need is one. And people can limit their frustration, particularly if you are a student right now, or you are about to sit for your certification. You can actually limit your frustration by not listening to other people. When you are listening to other people, you've got people with their different motives. Sometimes people are trying to sell programs, or they're trying to sell credentials. And that is why they're pushing people who don't know better to get all of these credentials. Oh, it'll make you more marketable. It'll make you more hireable. I've gotten 4 positions with my CCA. Because that was the original credential that I had, was a CCA. When I got the CCSP, which I passed this year in March, it was superseded, right? That CCA was superseded by the CCS, because that's the way the rules are with AHIMA. And so because of this, look at me. Use me as an example. I only have one credential, and I had the CCA when I got those 4 jobs, and each one of them paid me progressively better than the other ones. So you don't need an alphabet soup. And when you are listening to other people, it will cause you frustration, which is why I always tell you guys to stay out of those Facebook medical coding groups. People don't like that. They say, well, it's good for community. Not when it is confusing folks. Not when it is discouraging people by saying, I didn't pass, you're not going to pass. Or I didn't get a job, so you can't get a job. I don't see how anybody could get a job, And so that's why I always tell you, if this is the field that you want to be in, start with one credential. One credential. And when you've had experience, when you've been in the field for 2 years, and you decide, hey, I have my CPC. Let's just use CPC for an example. See, this is a good example. I have my CPC. I've had it for 2 years. But you know what? I'm really interested in learning how to do the inpatient coding. Let me take their inpatient coding program, and let me get the CIC. Well, now you have the CPC and the CIC. Great. This says that you can code both inpatient and outpatient now once you get that CIC. And you've had experience in the field, so you know and understand what the outpatient side is like. And there's a good chance, if you are wanting to switch over to the inpatient side, that you've made contact with somebody on the inpatient side. So you see how getting the certification can actually help you. It can actually open that door, and you've actually already made your connections with the inpatient side. So that's why I say, instead of stressing yourself out for trying to get all these credentials, not really understanding or knowing, what it is saying, because if you get the CCS and the CPC, you're essentially saying the same thing with the outpatient side, because both of them can code outpatient. So if you're interested in, going with a HEMA and you want to study both inpatient and outpatient, then great, you have the best of both worlds with the CCS. But then when you get the CPC, it's like, why did you get the CPC when you already have the CCS? Because CCS already says you can code outpatient. Why do you want to add on another bill by going to take the CPC? See, that doesn't make sense to me. And when I first got here, everybody that was here, I am a part of a very small minority group at my hospital. There are a handful. And like by a handful, I mean 3 of us that are a HEMA certified. Okay. And because of this, everybody's like, well, Bleu, don't you want to get the CPC? And at the time when I had the CCA, I said, why? And they go, well, it's just so you could be like everybody else. We all have CPCs. Well, that's great for you. But according to my credential says I can already code in the outpatient. I have this job. I've gotten not just this job, but 3 other ones as well. So why do I need it? And so because of this, I've been able to concentrate and develop myself as a medical coder, just concentrating on the one thing, which was actually getting into the medical coding. Now, if you want to invest in something that's going to help you, you know what you can invest in? Learning more specifically the anatomy, learning more specifically your medical terminology and your pathophysiology. That's what's going to help you, not a string of credentials. Because if I see somebody who's brand new, less than a year of experience with a string of credentials, I know that they're not going to have this advanced knowledge that somebody who's had years of experience, who has a string of credentials, would, right? Because if you're trying to showboat and have all these credentials because somebody told you that this is what you need to do, they're not helping you. Because what's going to help you is your medical terminology, your anatomy, your pathophysiology, and understanding that. If you don't believe me, look at the job listings. The job listings are going to tell you candidate must be certified through a HEMA or AAPC. Never once have I seen on a job listing, candidate must have multiple credentials to get hired. You know what else I see on the job listings? Candidate must have proficiency in medical terminology, anatomy, and pathophysiology. That is where you need to focus, friends. That's where you've got to put your energy, not in putting all these credentials after your name. Because it is just as hard for somebody who has a string of credentials to get their first job as a brand new medical coder. It's even difficult for degree holders. I was going to say CDI. It's even difficult for degree holders to get their first job. I have talked to many RHIAs who are having a very difficult time finding a job. I have talked to RHITs that are having a difficult time finding a job. But there's many reasons. It could be the region. It could be their resume. It could be their cover letter. It could be a myriad of things. There's a lot of different things that are factored in, okay? And then being able to pass a background check and all this other stuff. So that is what I want to say to you guys. It's the same thing that I tell my providers, which is I don't want them getting information from multiple resources. They need to get their information from me. Now, when it comes to you're a student and you're studying, what I mean by this and how this translates to you is get your information from solid resources like the associations themselves, like their candidate hand guides for taking the certification exams. If you have particular questions about that, go to the association website and look at that information. That is where you can get your solid information, not asking people what their opinion is or listening to them when they're trying to give you career advice. Because I would seriously question what are their motives when they're giving you career advice to say, yes, get the CCS and the CPC. Because if they know what the credentials are all about, they would tell you that why are you duplicating your credentials when you already have the CCS? If you pass the CCS, why are you taking the CPC? Because employers will take either AHIMA or AAPC credentials. And I have applied for places that were saying, oh, well, we take AAPC because it was the HR person that was writing the listing out, right? And they didn't know about AHIMA. And so when I applied with my credential, the people on staff were like, oh yeah, we know about AHIMA. And I got hired. So, let's get to some of these comments so I can simmer down. Hi, Christopher. All the alphabet soup can spell is trouble. That is right. Clara says, thank you for answering my question with yesterday's video. Oh, you're welcome. Congratulations on your CCSP. Thank you. I was very excited too. Heather says, thank you for the information. Is there a way to remove the CPCA faster, removing the A? So with the CPCA, and the A is for apprentice if you don't know, and that is for people who have just gotten their CPC credential, the Certified Professional Coder offered with the American Academy of Professional Coders. They have a 2-year commitment for that apprentice to be on your name. So what happens is if you don't do anything and you start working, you have a 2-year commitment that you're going to have this on your name. And at the end of those 2 years of you working as a medical coder, they will remove it, right? You can put in a request to have it removed. You can get it removed faster by doing Practicode, which is a educational product that AAPC does offer. It is multiple like surgery cases. I was gonna say surgical surgery cases, and it's meant to give you practice, but it is also, the side benefit of it is that you get 1 year of your 2-year commitment removed, right? So if you're working and you do Practicode, and so you're doing Practicode and you're working, you can do everything in 1 year, and within 1 year's time have that A removed. But if you already have a job, why would you want to speed up the process is what I'm asking. Because if you already have the job and you got the job with the CPCA, there's really no sense in investing more money to get Practicode, right? Because I'm not sure what the charge is on the Practicode. I remembered it before, but I can't think of it right now. But why would you want to do that when you already have the job? If you already have the job, then there's no sense in trying to speed up the process, because by the time you know it, it'll be the end of 2 years and you'll have it removed. People have gotten their jobs with the CPCA. I know majority of my audience is with AAPC. And when the pandemic kicked off, they all had their CPCAs and they still have their CPCAs, but they all got jobs. The ones that wrote in and told me that they got jobs, they were able to get it with the CPCA and they still have it. And so there's really nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the process. It's part of, the industry, and them saying, okay, you're still learning and you're still brand new. So, Donna, I got the CCSP. Brenda says, good evening, Blue. You are a fire, keep it burning, girl. LOL. Thank you. Megan says, if I am currently attending a program to prepare me for the CPC, how can I go straight for the CCS? Are there more job opportunities inpatient? There are more job opportunities inpatient based near me. Thank you. And Maria says, can you take the CCSP instead of the CPC, as they are both outpatient? I like that you did your research. I love that. If you are new to medical coding, or for the CCSP, you need to have experience in medical coding. I think AHIMA changed the requirements. Let me look it up really quick, because I think they dropped the requirements for the CCSP as well. I know they dropped the requirements for the CCS, but see, I love that. I love when people know and they ask questions when they know, like, the answer, part of the answer. But it is about making sense of it all. So let me go with certifications. So I love that. All right. Let's get it to come up here. All right. Certification exams. And CCSP. Let's see what the requirements are for that. Come on. All right. Eligibility requirements for the CCSP, or the Certified Coding Specialist, position-based, is to complete, while not required, one of the following are recommended to sit for the CCSP examination. Complete courses in the following topics: anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, pharmacology, medical terminology, reimbursement methodology, intermediate and advanced ICD diagnostic coding and procedural coding, and medical services, CPT and HCPCS, plus 1 year of coding experience directly applying codes, or a minimum of 2 years of related coding experience applying codes directly, or hold the CCA credential plus 1 year of coding experience directly applying codes, or hold a coding credential from another certifying organization plus 1 year of coding experience directly applying codes, or hold a CCS, RHIT, or an RHIA. So there's currently, they have recommendations on what you should have, but they do not have any requirements. So if you were studying for the CPC, but you wanted to take the CCSP, this is saying that you can. So you would be able to, if you were interested in that. The non-member price, if you are not a member of AHIMA, it is $399 for the exam. And if you are a member of AHIMA, it is $299 for the exam. And as of December 31st, 2019, there were 4,995 certified CCSP professionals. And in 2019, there were 357 first-time test takers, and 64% of them passed the first time. So this is a tough exam, and you have to make sure that you study. So that's what I got on that one. But the exam is between 115 and 140 total questions, right? The exam consists of 2 sections, a multiple choice section and a medical scenario section, covering evaluation and management, surgery, and medicine. And the exam is taken over a computer. It is not paper-based at all. So, and then the passing score is set at 300, as with all AHIMA exams and programs. Competencies for the CCSP fall into the 5 domains. Each domain accounts for a specific percentage of the total questions on the certification exam. And then it talks about the diagnosis coding is 16.5%. Procedure coding is 32.9%. So it is very heavy in procedures. Research is 7.6%. Compliance, this is another heavy one, is 31.6%. And the revenue cycle is 11.4%. So this is a very good credential to have. This is the mastery of the outpatient side. So, that is what I have to say on that. But yes, if you are interested in taking the CCSP instead, by all means. Let's see, what else do we got here? Maximus the Clone, I'm looking for videos that will help me understand modifiers and extender boxes. Hint, hint. I do have modifiers throughout my videos, so you can search. Got it, thanks. You're welcome. So that covers that. So hopefully when you're thinking about listening to other people, that you don't, because again, the more that you listen to other people, you can potentially get their anxieties and their fears put onto you. So that's why I say, just make sure that you concentrate on your own goals. and what you want to do, and don't listen to other people, so you can help to mitigate that frustration. And hopefully that will help you. So some of the independent study tips. When you are working in a workbook, right, and you are having to read chapters, and at the end of the chapter there's all the questions, right, and then you're having to like rethink, and how did I do this, and what did they say here? My advice is to read the questions before you start reading the chapter. The reason that I say this, a few years ago, I started forgetting things when I was reading, as I was reading them. And it's very annoying when this happens, because I was just like, okay, what is happening here? Like, why am I forgetting? And I don't know if it's because you just, as time goes on, you just sort of start to like go into this fog where you just don't remember stuff. But it did have to do with my diet. When you're deficient, if you have a certain vitamin deficiency, it can cause you to forget things, which is what my problem was. So that's been fixed, and so I'm really glad about that. But what I started to do was, of course, compensate for that. But the good thing about it was I learned a little trick. I read the end first, and whatever the end result is, then I knew what the outcome was going to be. So then I translated that into, okay, if I read the questions first, I know what questions they're going to ask. So as I start reading the chapter, boom, I was able to remember and recall it a lot easier. So that helped me. And then that translated over to being in, of course, in the office, and I'm reading those notes. I always read the assessment and plan first before I read the H&P. So that's what I do in order to get through my notes very quickly, because I'll know the end result. I'll know that if the provider performed a fracture treatment, then I'm going to be looking for a very complex note. At the time, E&M was different. So I had to make sure that all the points were met. So that was that time. But doing that also helped to speed the process, because I already knew what to look for. If the medical decision making was going to be very straightforward, then I was going to be able to have a very straightforward, note. If it needed to be expanded problem focused, I knew what to look for. And if it didn't meet those requirements, then it was going to go with a straightforward medical decision making. So, and it was going to drop everything. So that's a really good way of looking at things. When you look at the end result, what is the end result? Then you go about your business and you look and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense, because now I can recall. That's my advice. Also, flashcards, guys. I'm going to say it over and over again. Flashcards. Flashcards are your friend here. When it comes to the little bits of information, and I did a video earlier this week about reading the guidelines, and I still, of course, advocate for that, because reading the guidelines is very important. But the thing that I wanted to discuss today was actually making notes on each chapter. So when you're going through and you're looking at each chapter, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you're going through all 21 chapters, make notes about each chapter from the guidelines. So that way, when you're doing your flashcards, you're reading the guidelines, but then you're also studying with these flashcards, and the flashcards are giving you little bits of information. And so when you're looking at these little bits of information, you're like, oh, okay. And it's easier for you to recall. The name of the game is not memorization. The name of the game is being able to recall. So you're able to say, oh, okay. Oh yeah, I remember this now. How do we remember the lyrics of our favorite song? We listen to it repeatedly, right? Or it's catchy, or it's got a good beat to it. It's the same thing when you are studying. You have to kind of get into that mode. Some people use songs and they make up songs in their head, and there's that way of remembering it. When it comes to injuries, how I think of it is a lot of the injury codes start with an S. So whenever I see an S code, I know I'm going to stay with that code. And what does that mean? When it's an initial visit, right, and they have that S code for their injury, I know that when they go for their subsequent care, it's also going to be an S code and then the D at the end. But I'm going to start with an S and the S code. So I'm going to stay all the way through their treatment. And then when they finish and it's something else completely different, then you got those Z codes that you can come in and work with. But throughout the time when they're being treated for an injury, you know, some people will get confused and think, well, they had a surgery, so it must be aftercare. No, 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 no. When you're messing with injuries, it's going to be the injury all the way through. So that's why I always say, stay, stay, stay. And then how I remember about, like, if it's a organic condition, right? Everybody heard of the Lincoln MKZ, right? It's not an ad for Lincoln, but there's a vehicle that Lincoln makes called the Lincoln MKZ. So your organic conditions for orthopedics, right, begin with the letter M, right? That's how you know you're in the musculoskeletal section, right? So whenever a patient has a surgery for an M code, like just say the osteoarthritis of the knee, right? So it's an M code. So if the provider says this patient had a surgery for osteoarthritis of the knee, right? The left knee, I know that the aftercare code is going to be a Z code. Why? Because that M code is going to kick over to a Z code. Lincoln MKZ. M codes kick over to Z codes. And that's how I remembered how that goes for the orthopedic aftercare. The Lincoln MKZ. That's how I remembered it. So when you make up these little mnemonic devices, trust me, they help. And so that's how I taught my providers too, because they would get confused. They would be like, how do we remember if it's injury codes or orthopedic aftercare? How do we remember this? And I told them the little trick. They were like, oh, they like cars. So they were like, really, Blue, with the Lincoln? And I'm like, I'm just saying, the letters fit. So a former boss of mine drove an MK3. They are nice cars, you know, and Matthew McConaughey does drive one. I'm just saying. He does drive a Lincoln, so it can't all be that bad, right? But I mean, I like sports cars, but you know, what are we gonna do, you know? But yes, make it fun for yourselves, guys. It is fun, right? When you start to look at ways of developing, it does get fun. There's lots of mnemonic devices out there that are so fun. What is it? Scooby investigated the mysterious scene. So that is all the parts of the rotator cuff, right? So it's the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the tres minor, and then the, oh, how did I forget it? Anyway, I think it's the, how did I forget the last one? I forgot the last one. Shoot, it's going to bother me now. Okay, what is it? What is it? I have to look it up now. So using mnemonic devices really does help normally when you're not like me. You're scattered brain and you can't remember. What is it? Mnemonic device. A mnemonic device has a very funny spelling too. M-N-E. Mnemonic. And I did do a mnemonic devices for medical terminology, and I'll have to link it in the description box of this video. And I did leave the link that I did use. So what is it? Come on, Scooby. I can't believe I just completely blanked. I know what it is too. It drives me nuts. Okay, come on. What is it? Scooby. Come on, rotator cuff. I'll find it here in a minute. I can't believe I did that. They put some new ones on here too. It's a really cute one too. I like that. And then all of the bones of the skull is fit people occasionally eat table salt. That one I know. No, I can't find it. It's because I'm trying to look too fast. What are the muscles? The rotator cuff. Subscapularis, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and the tres minor. It's Friday. And I thought of it at the last minute. So, and I knew I was, I knew I had it. I had it. Yep. Patrice, I know, right? It's like, but it's a good way for you to remember. You know, you can at least think of like, oh, okay, yeah. Scooby investigated the mysterious scene. Okay, yeah, I got it. So it is a really good way to recall when you can recall it. So anyway, but yes, that is my advice today, guys. Find ways to make it fun for yourself when you're independently studying. Use mnemonic devices. Read the questions at the end of the chapter before you start reading the beginning of the chapter, so that way you at least know. Always use flashcards. That's my biggest bit of advice. Still read your coding guidelines once per week. Make notes about each chapter, and that way it will start to become more familiar to you. Don't listen to other people when you are working towards your goal. Everybody has, a different path. Everybody has different experiences. Somebody who's walked in my path would know what my experience was like, right? But our experiences are individual, and they drive each one of us differently. And so for me, when I had the experience of becoming a medical coder and then going through everything that I was going through, and then the fact that coding as the experience of the industry did save me, because I was like, okay, I can throw myself into this and I can focus and I can have something that I can be proud of, which is being able to have this wonderful knowledge base that I have that's always growing because you never stop. You don't stop. And that is something that I always encourage people as well. You know, I'm currently in a CDI program. So that's my version of not stopping. That is my version of getting better. That is my version of sharpening myself and my skills, because you always have to learn. And even me, I'm going through the flashcards right now. And to me, it's like sometimes I'm like, I've got to do these flashcards too, you know. But I tell you guys, as much as I would encourage myself to do them, you know, you've got to do them, because it does really help. Because it's those little flashes of information when you don't have so much bogging your mind down. That's the kind of stuff that sticks. At least that's my advice anyway. So, all right. But if anybody has any other questions, yes, no, maybe so. I guess I'll go ahead and wrap this one up. But yeah, that's my advice. Listening to other people, though, can really lead to a lot of frustration. So don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. And if you're going to ask me questions, I love questions. Don't get me wrong. I love questions. But if you know my stance doesn't change. My stance will not change on things, on issues when it comes to coding. You know, I'm always going to encourage brand new people to start off with one credential. I'm always going to encourage brand new people to get certified with a HEMA or AAPC. You know, that's never going to change, ever. Unless there's going to be some thing in the future that is, you know, really advanced. And even then, I will make sure that I study it and I go through it forward and backward before I even recommend it to you guys. Because I just refuse to give you guys any information that is wrong or bad, at least in my opinion. You know, sometimes like you people don't think about that. People don't think that there's other people that are out there that are actually trying to protect them. That's what I actually try to do is protect people. That's why I'm very particular about the information that I give out on my channel. And I almost refuse to say certain things because I don't think that those other people or those other organizations deserve it, you know. Patricia says, awesome, I'm proud of you. Thank you. You encourage me. I am now a CPC. Congratulations, of course. God bless you and your career. Thank you so much for always sharing. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your support. I truly do appreciate it. But yes, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all back here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.